Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Candid Frank Live's NLL Lacrosse Talk. Remember that this show can be seen across the Single TV networks on channels 249 and 250. As well, please, we ask you to go to the respective app stores of iOS and Android to download the Single app in the respective stores. Remember that to always leave us a comment and a rating. We always like to hear from you as to how you are liking the shows that you are seeing with in Single. Remember as well that Single TV can be found across Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Ladies and gentlemen, as usual, Gary Groob is here to entertain you in the area of lacrosse. And today we have a special guest on this show of Candid Frank Live Lacrosse Talk. And it's none other than Pat O'Toole, assistant coach with the Rochester Knighthawks and a Hall of Fame goalie. And with that, I leave you in the hands of Gary Groob, and Frank will be here soon.
Thanks, Eduardo. Appreciate it. Pat, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Hey, Frank, how are you?
Good.
Welcome. We're just getting started. And Pat, our first question we ask all our guests is, how did you get started in lacrosse?
Just my brother was playing. He's 5.5 years older than me. So at that pesky age of 3 or 4, whatever it is, that you got to tag along because mom and dad are going. I just had a lacrosse stick in my hands, and then, I think I was 4 years old, and it was my turn, and it was just a natural progression into playing. So,
did they start you in goal, or did you start out as a forward and work your way from there?
No, I was a forward. I think up to age 11, novice, I think it is, and I remember sitting in the school before we used to go to the school gym for our preseason stuff, and coach said we kind of have a problem, and he's like, we have a lot of players and no goalies. So I said I'd give it a try. On my brother's team, my favorite player was his goalie, so I grabbed the goalie stuff and went in there, and I went in the natural crouch of a goalie, and they are all kind of looking, going, he might have to stay there. So it was it just kind of, I watched them for so many years. It was just natural, and then my ongoing joke for people who ask, I said then I gained the weight, and I said it was a great career choice at 11 years old.
Thank God you made that choice, because
yes,
you had.
Yeah.
Wow. Taking a look at it, we'll start. Basically, you've won at every single level. It's a testament to you. It's a testament to your teams. It's a testament to the programs. Let's start out with junior. Founders Cup, 1992, Scarborough, 1990 with Orangeville. Let's talk about those programs and the teams that you were on.
Well, I mean, I'll start with the Orangeville one because that was the first one I won. So basically, I got into junior in the first couple of years. I was paying my dues and not playing very much. In the third year, I started playing for Scarborough, and about halfway through the year, they came to us and said, we traded you, or actually, I'm going to say 2/3 of the way through. They said, we traded you to Orangeville. And back in Ontario, like junior, back then they had those weird rules where you can get traded for the rest of the season and then go back to the team that you came from at the end of the season. So anyways, I went to Orangeville, but I mean, it was an unbelievable experience. I mean, Orangeville lacrosse speaks for itself. I don't think there's anyone here that doubts the success of the program, but just getting there, for me, for the first time, it was, guys who expected to win, guys who they had a system, they all played in it, everyone played for each other. Small town, the support was unbelievable. It was a great feeling just going there and playing in front of that many people and for that club. And then again, we had our success, and again, I'm going to say Junior B's developed a little bit more since then. Basically, if you won Ontario's back in the day, you probably had a pretty good shot at winning everything. So, we had a really good team. We went out west, I think we played our worst game the first game, and we won by 10 or something like that. And you're just you had that good feeling. But it was, it was just a great group of guys, and it was just a lot of fun. And then when I went back to Scarborough, that championship was a little bit different. I had won one by that time, but those were my buddies that I grew up with, 4, 5, 6, all the way through. And we were never the best team. I'm not going to lie. We were probably a CD team. But back then we were in a division with Peterborough and Whitby. And so we took some shellacking some nights. So just to finally come full circle and, be at that age group and for us to win together was a lot of fun. We didn't have the support that they did in Orangeville with the fans and stuff like that. Being in Scarborough,
Right.
you could hear your mom clap when you were being introduced, and but it was nonetheless it was a pretty special experience because, as I said, it was the guys that we grew up with, went to battle with all those years and didn't have success, and to finally kind of put it all together and win a Canadian championship was pretty exciting.
You start playing, you become a really good player, and then you decide, I guess. How do you come about deciding about getting into the coaching ranks?
Well, I mean, I was still playing at the time, and my son, who was born in 03, he, obviously had a lacrosse stick in his hand from the day he was born. And then they started, we were living in Brampton, and he wanted to get into lacrosse. And then it was just it was one of those things where you go to the rink and they're like, oh, Pat O'Toole's here, let's get him on the floor kind of thing. Right. So I was still playing in the NLL then. And, when I started coaching him. And so again, it was just a group of kids and the natural progression. Again, I'm one of those guys. I know, watching my brother and stuff, I know the value of people giving back to to lacrosse. And for me, it was just a natural thing. And actually I started coaching the year before with Mike Hazen, because Austin, my nephew, they started field lacrosse. And I remember I used to joke because I didn't know a whole lot about field lacrosse, but whatever Mike yelled, I just yelled louder. It made it sound like I came up with the idea. So that was field lacrosse, but box lacrosse was just natural. And then I had the group of kids that, I mean, even a couple of years when life got busy, you'd look at these kids and you're like, yeah, I can't give this up.
Yeah. You get into Mill, like you were talking about, and you're with New York. Never really got a chance there in '95. You get over to Buffalo, and it opens. You guys win that year, and you win the Champions Cup MVP. Talk about getting into Buffalo, and that, the crowd, for one, has always been nutty, to say the least.
Yeah. No, I joined the league, and as you said, in 95, and went to New York. And that back then you played 8 regular season games. If you didn't make playoffs, that was it. So at the end of the year, I remember I went to New York and I lived there, but we made $175 a game. If you are an active player, and if you were not, you made $75 a game. So New York was kind of an expensive city to live in when you're making $175 a game. So I had a job back home. So basically I just went to the league and said, it's going to be tough for me to get back there. And they said, okay, well, we'll see if there's something we can do. And it used to be owned by the owners. And I mean, again, when you have a job that you can't leave, they either had to fly me out, which was unheard of back then, or they had to. So I was playing in the major series at that time. And I guess Les Bartley was the guy there, and he heard I was available, and they had I think their worst season in '95, so they were looking to add a goalie, and I was lucky enough to be the one. And then I got to Buffalo, and I don't know if you've ever been to a game in the Odd, but it was probably one of the best arenas to play. It's just they pack people right on top of each other, and it just was rocking every game. So it was a lot. I went from, I'm not going to say New York was bad. We started out with 13,000 fans, but when you lose, they kept going down, down, down. But to get in the Odd and 16,000 people every game and just going crazy, it was an unbelievable feeling.
And the rink was smaller, which brought the people even more around you, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like the upper bowls now, they all go out kind of thing. Back in the day, those upper bowls, they went right over top of the lower bowl people. And when it got, as I said, when it got loud, it was really, really loud. So it was a lot of fun.
Yep. For people that don't know, it's like the old Gardens. When they had that railing there, I think not because you would fall, but it felt like you could, and you needed somewhere to grab because it was weird. It was weird standing up there in a graze at the Gardens.
Yeah, and
or the Blues behind the net.
And
that's even worse.
When I got to Buffalo, they gave us tickets for our parents up in that level. And my mom and dad went up there the first time, and they're like, "Yeah, we need to get tickets down lower because it was, as you said, they just had that feeling of going to fall, and it was crazy. Like they said, the stairs were steep, but that's the way they made them back in the day. But again, as much as the new rinks are beautiful and nice, I mean, playing in that environment was unreal.
Yeah.
You spend a couple of years in Buffalo, you make it over to Rochester, where you spend the next 12 years of your career, winning in 2007, guiding them to a championship, and then again as a coach, 3 more championships, the back-to-back-to-back things, which is also a testament to your coaching abilities, because you had Matt Vince, who already knew plenty, but there was a definite tool time kind of thing to his play.
Yeah, I mean, again, I went to Rochester in '99, and we had instant success that year. I think we went to the championship game and lost one of our 3 to Toronto there in Toronto. But it was one of those things. We had a great team, and I'll say to this day, and if you ask some of the Toronto guys, I'm they're pretty thankful that they were 1-game playoffs and not best 4 to 7s, because we had some pretty good teams, and it would have been a pretty big battle. So.
That's my orders for you.
So, I mean, we always say that, and I mean, they were good too, don't get me wrong, but it was, we just didn't put it together that game, and they did, and they won the championship. So I'm taking nothing away from them, but we had a lot of success. We just didn't have the championships to follow, and then finally, again, almost like my junior story, that the group of guys that had lost the 3 together, kind of in 07 there, we just went on a run there that was unreal. I think we were 2-3 or 1-2 or something at the beginning of the year, and then we just went like 16 or 18 straight to win the championship, and won some games we shouldn't have. But that's kind of the lessons we learned along the way, and as I said, put it together, and then it was pretty good. And then after, as I said, after I was retired, they asked me to coach right away, and I jumped at the chance. Obviously, my brother-in-law, Mike Hazen, was coaching at the time, and we did a lot of traveling together. Our philosophy is the same, kind of on the defensive end. And yeah, I was lucky enough to get the coaching job, and that's the year that Vino came too. And I mean, his career speaks for itself, but I don't think I helped. Vino had a style. I don't think I helped his style a whole lot more. I think I was more of a sounding board for Vino, and could relate to a lot of the stuff that was going on, and could maybe give him the odd tip or something. But it was more tips of kind of if I saw him doing something different than he normally does. It wasn't really, oh, I did this or anything like that. So I think we had a good working relationship, but it was more just a guy who had been through it talking to a guy that's going through it, and it was kind of a sounding board for him. So I think that was my biggest value to him, and as I said, and then I could throw the odd thing in there that might have helped him out. But yeah, he's pretty good, and his record and career speaks for itself. So I will not take any credit for that. He's a pretty awesome goalie.
How has coaching changed in your mind from the time you started till now, from your perspective?
I think the biggest thing, and I is just the video work and stuff like that. Like we joke all the time. I remember Paulie Day coaching us, and we got the VHS games, and then he would get the clips he wanted, and we'd be watching them, and he would have to fast forward to that point that he wanted to show us that clip, which again was not every team was doing that. So good for Paulie. But now we get the film all broken down for us. We put the clips in a reel, and we show them to the guys. We can get it to them at home. We can, they can log on. So I think the biggest thing is, and therefore with the video comes a lot less surprises. I mean, there's, when we go to play a team from out west that we don't see a whole lot, we just watch a lot of video. We're back in the day, you went out there, it was like, yeah, you're just walking into a show that you've never seen before, and you're just like, oh my goodness, like these guys are fast or whatever it was, right? Kind of thing, because you didn't see them a whole lot. So I think the biggest thing is having that video in your back pocket and being able to utilize it to your team's advantage.
A lot of theory, not so much exercise, which is a different set of requirements 100%. For players, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Now, I think you played yourself down a little bit, because if I remember correctly, the city absolutely was enamored by you, because I was at your celebration of career. at Blue Cross, and man, I think there would have been a riot if they didn't keep you on somewhere on the team doing something.
Yeah, I I remember. Well, I joked at my Hall of Fame because I just said back in the day when they used to do the tool time chant, you'd be like, I joke and say they do the tool time, they get the rebound and score, and you're like, can you settle it down until it's gone, and then you're like, oh, I missed that kind of thing. So yeah, it was one of those things. I mean, we again because our team had success and I had success and stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie, I was probably one of the fan favorites, and I think for a couple of years, even after I retired, when they announced us on the bench, we got some pretty big cheers, and we were just coaching. So, I mean, the city's treated me well, and and I'm very grateful for the support that I got, and it continues to this day. But yeah, with
Right.
our success came quite a bit of fanfare, so it was fun.
3 goals and 136 assists too, which is still, I believe, a record that hasn't been touched. I think that's pretty standard. Cool for an offensive goalie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes down to my like being a kid. I was a player, and when I became a goalie, I still wanted to have that aspect, right? And then I
Sure.
became pretty good at that, the long pass, and going back to the coaching thing. And until this year, until it almost got passed, I thought it would be one of those records because with video, no one tries to cheat and intercept passes anymore. I mean, I remember guys stopping at center, and I'm like, you think you're going to get this kind of thing? Like, I'm going to throw it over your head. But nowadays, if you did that, you would be on video on Tuesday practice, and they'd be cutting you up. So I will say, it was one of those records I thought, would probably, but these goalies nowadays, they're coming up and they can get that ball up the floor pretty quick and pretty accurately. So eventually that will fall one day, but well, it's mine. I'll enjoy it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun getting the assist, but these guys are getting pretty good at it now too.
The equipment now is
That
a
guy-
little
that
bulky.
guy
Bulky.
Calgary.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention
Yeah.
about the bulky equipment that back in your day that makes it harder today for the goalies to get involved as much as you might have back in your day, right?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say the equipment that they got is all formed now. I mean, our equipment that we had, we'd get a lap pad from somebody and a thigh pad from a hockey pair of pants or something. We had to put our own stuff together. I mean, I remember I showed my son, he's a goalie, wearing the new Bodum stuff, and I showed him a pair of mine that I had when I was a kid, and he almost started laughing. I mean, he was like this, and then I remember. I mean, you watch the goalies now, they time out, they take their uppers off and put it down. Once my stuff was taped on, there was no taking that. That was a good half-hour process getting everything taped together and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's one of those things that, the equipment's come a long way, but it does allow you to throw the ball. I mean, it was kind of one of those things where it was lost. Most coaches were like, just go stop the ball. But they realized that the game's evolved and transition is a big part of it again. So, they're like, we need these goalies to be able to throw, and that's what you're seeing now is these guys are coming in the league and they got some pretty pinpoint passing, and that's just from coaches realizing you just not there to stop the ball. You better be able to move it up the floor too.
Right. Now, you talked about Major Series lacrosse. You had a couple of years with Brampton. You won a Mann Cup in '98. Also won the Mike Kelly Award for MVP. And in a couple of years with Peterborough, also I think it was 2004, 6, and 7. Winning as a player, and then also as a coach in 2011. So there's a lot of rings floating around for Mann Cups.
Yeah, I just as I said, I've been fortunate to play for some really good teams and with really good players, and I mean they each have their own story, and when in Brampton when no one gave us a shot at winning anything, and then we put it together, and that's even when the Powerade Center, they were opening that for battalion, but it was open just in time for the Mann Cup, and I think they were a little bit bitter with us because we were the first thing to go in there, and we won a championship. They wanted to be the team, so I remember that. And then when I went to Peterborough, I mean, that was just so much fun and stuff like that. Just all those hometown boys and John Grant Jr. coming back and playing, and Tracy, and like just all those guys who lived in Peterborough, and we had that hometown feel. Like I used to joke after the game, that our guys would all be going back to somebody's house where we'd be playing Brampton in the final, and they had guys going in 15 different directions. So they put a team together where we just had a bunch of buddies that were, just stuck together through the years. And and then the fan support that we got there, that's the year of the flood in '04.
Right.
And then that's when it kicked off, and all of a sudden we had, like, that rink was just packed for every game after that. We became the rallying point for the city and the newspaper, and I just remember, like, how much fun it was just going to the rink every week, and once we got into the playoffs and the Man Cup, it was unbelievable.
Now, I want to talk a bit about here being the president of the Brampton Minor Lacrosse Association. First of all, how did you get involved in it?
Just through the ranks. I started coaching, obviously, and then as we were going through, the people that were there started moving out, so they needed a box rep coordinator, which I started doing, and then I was on the executive. And then as we were going, I think I did that for 3 or 4 years, and then the president was on his way out, and then the organization was going through some tough times then, and financially and everything like that. So it was kind of one of those things where I had my group of kids, as I said, that with my son's age, and we were kind of at that Bantam, 2 years of Bantam, 2 years of midget left, and it was, it would have been a shame to see the organization fall through, and kids have to be dispersed to other organizations. So it was, I went and talked to a few people. Rick Garcia, he stepped up he took my spot as a box rep. Ron Evans was a huge help for me. He basically, when we met, he took over the house league program, which, again, when you're playing lacrosse and coaching lacrosse and you don't have enough time in the day to be doing everything, and he basically just put that on his shoulders and did it on his own. I mean, it was unreal what he did for me. So I just had a good group of people that were willing to stay on board if I did it. So I decided I'd give it a shot, and again, we didn't increase the numbers in Brampton, but we put ourselves in good financial stability that the organization today is they can make decisions and not have to worry about every penny all the time.
Sure. You also spearheaded a drive for donation of equipment to Indigenous communities too, to keep the spirit of the game alive too, huh?
Yeah, I mean, when we took over, we had went in the lockup, and we had an excess of equipment, and then that's when everyone started talking about the donations to the Indigenous communities and helping out and stuff like that. So we had a couple guys in the executive that said that they would do it, and so we went to lock up the one time, and we got, again, it wasn't the newest or the best equipment, but it was equipment that they didn't have, and we put it together, and kind of whoever we reached out to or would reach out to us in schools and stuff, we would send it off to them and utilize stuff that was just sitting in our lockup that wouldn't be used again. So
right.
we did that, and it was pretty good.
And then you stuck around with Brampton. Was it Junior B or Senior B? You stuck around coaching?
I'm Junior A now, but I coached Junior A with Mike Hazen when his son was on it the last couple of years, and then the natural progression. Austin was on his way out, and then my son was on his way in. So right. I mean, obviously, beautiful COVID happened their first 2 years of junior, but just so we only really got rolling last year on the Junior A program.
Right. Let's talk a bit about the Knighthawks now. And this year was a huge jump from where you were. You guys were kind of floundering as an expansion team would, but this year everything seemed to align. Goaltending aligned. You had great goaltending with Ryan Hartley and that. Before that with Craig Wendy as well. But let's talk a little bit about the team and the difference of attitude, I guess would be the best would say, and then how everything rolled together.
100%. It was attitude, and it was also a belief. Our first year that was in the league was interrupted with COVID too, right? And the league so we really only played I think 10 or 12 games that year or whatever it was before it was canceled. Mm-hmm. And not that we were lighting it up that year, but we were having our good games and our bad games, and we were learning our lessons, and we were hoping that it would pay off. And then the next year it was COVID, and then with COVID, that the draft thing with guys being able to go back to university and having to know players and drafting guys who weren't playing for you. I think when we got back the second year, which I think was last year, and we finished last, it was one of those things we knew we took steps to get better. Mm-hmm. But with guys, not all guys being there because they went back to university and stuff, we didn't have the success that we thought we were going to. And we learned quick, and I'm not making this an excuse, but we learned quick. We weren't deep. When injuries happened, they they put us back a lot. Like, again, you look at this year, Buffalo, they're a deep team, had a whack of injuries and still found a way to win. Well, when we had those injuries, Matt Gilray out for the second half of the season, stuff like that, that hurt us bad. So that didn't help us at all and stuff. But again, it was basically our second year in the league, even though it was the fourth or whatever. But again, lessons learned. Everything is a lesson. That's what we say, and you got to learn from it. But again, with the guys that were out, and the guys that got injured and the guys we knew coming in, I think, as you said, it was an attitude, but it was also belief that we were better than everybody was giving us credit for.
Sure.
So all that stuff on everything that was being said before the season, not giving us a chance at doing anything. And let's be honest. I mean, Ryan Hartley came in after some concussion trouble and had one of those seasons that you'll never forget. I mean, he'll probably be angry a little bit now because it didn't end the way he wanted it to, but it didn't end for anyone the way we wanted it to. But
sure.
I mean, if he'll look back at this season one day and be like, our success was a lot to do with him in the season that he played and how unbelievable he played for us.
Well, let's talk about Hartley a little bit. Minto Cup winner with Orangeville. He has a great natural ability and tools. This is where you step in, eh? And how is it that you've honed these things and got him to that NLL level?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. There's not a lot in my game that I can teach Ryan Hartley. He moves more in one practice than I moved in my entire career. So, I mean, he's a smaller body and he's very athletic and he moves. He's a, you know what I mean? Anyone who's seen him play, I mean, he does the splits and then gets back up. I mean, if I went down the splits, I might be able to do it, but I might need a crane to come get me. But, he's just unreal. And, you know what? I think with the concussion trouble that he had the year before, and then it kind of drove him because he wanted to be part of that group. And then when he went down, it ate at him a little bit. So not that it's his fault getting a concussion, but I think this year he was driven to take that starting role, take that number one role and just say it's mine. And I'm going to go with it. And let's be honest. I mean, as you said, he Minto Cup in Orangeville his final year. Ask anyone who played against him that year. He's an unbelievable goalie. We knew it was there, and it was just a matter of he just said I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it, and he did, and he was spectacular for the whole season for us, and it was pretty to watch. I mean, anyone who watched the game, some of the saves that he comes out with are just unreal. So, lot of fun to watch him
he
play.
used that problem as rocket fuel. There's two ways to go when something bad like that happens, where you feel like, what happened is unfair. There's two ways to go.
Yeah, 100%. And he used it in the right way, and just took it.
Now you also have Riley Hutchcraft, who is also a star goalie. Had a great career with Mimico. Came from Toronto, where he was a backup to Nick Rose, and I guess was trying to hope to get a little bit more playing time. But how's Riley in all this?
You know what? He's really good. I mean, again, I'm pretty sure he wanted more playing time and stuff. But when the other goalie does that well, I mean, again, even myself being a goalie and stuff like that, and there's times in my career where I wasn't always looked at as a starter, and you got to have a good attitude, and he's got an unbelievable attitude. He's a team first guy. He's always out there for the guys. And then, I mean, from a coaching staff point of view, I mean, he's a dynamite goalie. He's really good, and we have the confidence to put him in there and do a job, and he would do it well. I mean, Hartley he earned it. I mean, he took it at the beginning of the year. He earned it, and we had to give him the benefit of the doubt. Even when games weren't always going, it had nothing to do with Hutchcraft. It was just a guy who earned the starting spot. And but again, if we had to go to Hutchie for whatever reason, I mean, like our confidence in his ability is through the roof, and we'd have no problem doing it. It's just, as I said, the way Hartley did, we just had to give him the benefit of the doubt this year.
Now, you talked about depth. In the offseason, you picked up Connor Fields and him with Ryan Smith and Thomas Hogarth and Hodem Katoni. You guys have a great offensive prowess. And then you'd mentioned once injuries happen, the depth. Is that what you're more looking to do come draft time and free agency? Is to try and increase the depth to the team?
Yeah, again, I mean, I think that's everyone's, everyone goes about it a different way, and where you are in the season, or in your stature, whatever. I mean, you get the older teams with guys retiring, and you got to kind of do a youth movement, right? Like we have a bunch of young guys, and we got good players now. So now we're, I mean, we know there's going to be injuries throughout the year. It's the NLL, it's the highest lacrosse you can play, and guys go at it hard. So we know there's going to be bumps in the road. So we want to make sure we have players that can step in and fill roles. And then again, I'll go back to Buffalo this year. You look what they did. They had a bunch of old guys out, and a couple of their D guys. McKay gets in, and he gets like 3 goals one game and stuff like that. That's just a team that's deep and has guys who can step in. And we need to get to that point. So I think our belief and what we'll try to do is they keep adding pieces that are going to make a difference. And then every time you add that piece, it makes you that much better and that much deeper. So
Right.
hopefully,
At one point, you had both Reese and Gilray out, so that took care of the transition game. So it didn't matter how well Hartley passed the ball to the floor. There really wasn't anybody to go anywhere with it. With that,
well, yeah, you know what I mean. And now we got. I mean, our first year we had 2 or 3 guys that could run up the ball. And now you look at our success at the beginning of the year when we caught teams off guard. I mean, every one of our D guys were carrying the ball, and then they're all looking and going, "Wait a second here, this didn't happen 2 years ago," kind of thing, right? Because
right.
as you said, guys got injured. Even this year, we had guys out and stuff like that, but we could still get the ball out because we had more players like that. And I think as I said, as an organization, we'll keep trying to improve on those talented players.
Right. How big was it to have Paul Dawson as your captain, defenseman, and leader in the dressing room? How big is that towards it? It's mostly youth.
It's good. I mean, Paulie's a great player, and obviously, but I mean, he's a Nighthawk, right? So he's been around. He's and he likes being here and stuff like that. But Paul, and I'll even give Dan. I mean, they do everything right, right?
Mhm.
They eat right, they work out, they do. So you get these young kids coming in, and we say it all the time, to our guys, and you don't need to look much further than Paul Dawson to figure out if you want a long career how you do it, right? So
Right.
he's committed to the team game. He watches his video, he works out on his own, he puts in all the time that you need to do. And then he's a great defender too. He's a big, strong boy, sticks up for the guys. He understands the game. I mean, even for me on the defensive end there, when we do our team talks and stuff, it's like having another coach with you, kind of thing, right? Because he understands the game so well that
Right.
he can add in his points, and it's good. So yeah, having him there, especially with a young team and expansion team, was huge for us because it was like having another coach out there, and and a guy who does everything right.
Right. Now, looking at the Hall of Fames, you're a 4-time Hall of Fame guy. You had the Knighthawks in 2012, 2013 with the NLL, the Ontario Lacrosse Hall of Fame in 2021, and 2022 the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame. Now, it sounds funny, but we've had Michelle Boyer, we've had a few others on who talked about their hometown Hall of Fames were almost bigger than the big ones that they've gotten into. Is that the same for you getting into the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame?
I mean, yes, because lacrosse is what I did. So I'm in the Nighthawk one, and I'm in the NLL because of the success of the teams, and then the success that I had, and everything like that. Where the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame, it's more of a an overall one. That's people recognize what you did as a player, what I did as the president, and things like that. So it's more than just playing the game. It's dedicating yourself to others, and continuing to teach others, kind of thing, the game that you love. So a lot of them come with the success that I had, but that one's kind of one of the ones I had to have success, yes, but it was also the recognition by my peers that what I did a good job, and I continue to. And then you got some pretty good lacrosse players in there as well, so it was pretty exciting to be inducted into the Brent Sports Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, absolutely. The NLL one is actually the one that intrigues me because there's not a lot of people in there. That looks like it's a really tough place to get into. And in 2013, you got in there. I believe you were the only one to get in that year, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah,
That's quite the honor.
yeah. I mean, again, and you hear stuff afterwards and stuff like that, and it was my first time in the ballot, and I think you have to have 75%, and I think I was almost 100 that you heard after that all the ex-players, I think, voted for me as a first-time baller. So, I mean, that was pretty exciting. And, it's guys that you played against your whole life, right? And now they're voting you in. So it kind of gave you that feeling that you did something well, because it's the guys that, ran by your net every game telling you that you sucked, and all of a sudden they're voting you into the Hall of Fame. So it was a pretty special feeling. And then again, there's some pretty special lacrosse players in that Hall of Fame. So just being kind of part of that is pretty good and pretty special. But just as I said, it was just hearing, but the guys that I battled against all those years and stuff like that, they thought enough of me to to put me in on a first ballot and be the only one to go in was pretty good.
Right. Now, I want to pick your brain a little bit about minor lacrosse, and we've talked with a lot of the excuse me, with the old legends about the pigeonholing of kids too early into a specific genre, whether defense or offense or transition. Whereas way back in your era too, you played both sides of the ball and kind of fell into wherever you were best at. Are we pigeonholing kids too soon, do you think?
I'm gonna say no, because you can't do it till midget, right? Like Bantam. In the end, I know coaches want to win and stuff like that. It's up to the coach to abide by the rules. Like I in Bantam, we played teams that we'd go see the same kid going out the D door, and he was a pretty good defender, but you're just like, you know what, abide by the rules. So if we just get coaches to abide by the rules, when they get into midget, they're 16, 17, and now with field lacrosse being more popular, guys are long poles. Well, you know what, defensive, positioning is their specialty. So I'm not against it at the midget age, but I'm kind of against it before that.
Right.
And then, in junior and stuff, that's what it is. I mean, but almost backwards. I mean, transition, like I tell all my guys, unless you're a guy that gets 4 or 5 goals a game, you might want to get good at defense and offense, because transition's the way. Like, look at the Toronto Rock at Challen Rogers. I mean, unbelievable two-way guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and all my guys being from Brampton, they all watch the Rock, so they know, Challen Rogers. And I'm like, that's the new NLL. Like, they want guys that can play offense and play defense. So,
Right.
It'll kind of play full circle. And if, there for a while, it was all offense, defense, but now teams are realizing the value of those transition guys and getting up the floor, and it's kind of going back to that. So, again, I the way the rules are, I'm not against it. I just, we just need coaches to abide by it, right?
Right. Now, when we had Sakevitz on a couple of years back, he had basically said that where the league was pretty much where the NHL was, say, 1974, 75. Expansion had already happened. The TV deals were starting to come in, but the explosion hasn't happened. Do you agree with that? Do you think that we're on the cusp of something really, really big coming?
And I'm going to say yes, but that's without the knowledge of the financials of the league and stuff like that. Just where we are. I mean, we have great owners in this league now. We just don't have the guy that wants to buy a team and have it for 3 years and then, move on and kind of like a hobby, whatever. We got guys that, care about it and they got a little financial backing and, the model with, the NHL or NBA or whatever, and having a box office people and stuff like that. I mean, it's working now. I think we have as I said, great owners. So that's the key to the start. And then, I think the league executive has taken it, to the next level. They're starting to get those TV contracts. I remember back in the day, you'd get the TV deal that would be like 3 games, and they had picked the All-Star game to be one of them. And you're like, that's the worst game ever. Like, kind of like, it's a good game. It's the talented players, but it's not really ever a good game. So, right. You know what I mean? Now you got these TV deals, and I think you get it out there. And yeah, I mean, if the proper deal came along and they could get it to work, I mean, I think, this league could take off and these guys could be making full-time wages that this is what they had to do. So right. That would be nice for these guys, and it would just be nice as a lacrosse guy to see that. Right. So,
right. It's funny you mentioned the All-Star game, because when we had Brett Fruit on, one of my questions with him was, or is there any chance of reinstating it? It's not so much for the game, I don't think, but some of the other things, the shooting thing, the PLL seemed to have it down pat to put it, put all those things in their halftime and all those competitions. And I think they got more hits and more likes throughout the competitions as opposed to the game itself, which is just, it's like watching the NBA game where you get 500 points and whatever.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I just, as I said, when you have a TV contract for 3 games, you don't want the All-Star game to be one of the 3, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it has value, and it has the star players out, and it has all those competitions, and I mean, as a guy who played in one, it was fun to kind of be there and be with other guys and stuff like that. But as I said, when you have a limited TV contract, having that as one of the games that's trying to sell your sport.
Yeah.
That was the first time someone tuned in, and there was a guy in the corner who didn't really want to get hit or hit the guy and let him pick up the ball. You'd be like, what is this kind of thing, right? So again, just an all-star game is what it is. And, I mean, it's to, showcase the talented players and see what they can do. And if they can get that, it would be fun again, right?
Right.
So hopefully they do get to that point where we have it again.
Sure. We only have a couple of minutes left. I want to get your opinion on the lacrosse sixes. And its vie for getting into the Olympics. Now, of course, the traditionalists are, they can't stand it. But if that were the case, we'd still be playing with 100 people on the field and play for 3 days long. And that. So, of course, we have to evolve to try and get more people to see it. And then once we get them, I think then we can actually, teach them the tradition of the game. But the sixes themselves, just for kids themselves, is it better because it keeps everybody moving? You don't have that right fielder of the kid who's not that athletic standing there midfield and just kind of hoping that the ball doesn't come to him. It's better for the kids program, do you think?
It can be. I mean, again, you're getting away from the traditional lacrosse, and then it's just all out offense, right? So I realize why they have to do it. I'm not against it for that reason. And I'm not against it. I know why they're doing it, and we want to get it in the Olympics and stuff like that. But at the same time, I mean, I watched the PLL sixes there, and the score of the one game was 32-22 or something like crazy, right? Like, I mean, again, there's got to be some of the tradition of. I mean, I always say, and for all the people who want lots of goals, I'm like, the best thing about the NLL or lacrosse in general is you can go out and you could see a 22-19 game, or you can see a 7-6 game. And just showing up to the rink, you don't know which one it's going to be. I think that's kind of the fun part. But as far as minor kids, I don't mind it because, as you said, everyone's going. There's just not guys sitting around doing nothing. It's it's go, and they get the ball more in their stick, and away you go, right? So it's got value. It's again, for an old guy like me, traditional, you like to see some of the traditional lacrosse, but you know whatever you have to do to get these sports, our sport, kind of in the eye of the public and in the Olympics and stuff like that, then you have to go with the changes and work them the best you can.
Right. I know this year the Excelsiors make a trip back into Major Series, which is a relief for a lot of people. How do you figure that it's going to work for the organization? Everything seems to be lined up very nicely, and the first game's coming up. Was it this coming Thursday? I think.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm with the junior A team, so I don't know too much. I know it's an exciting time. Obviously, they fought hard to get them back and stuff like that. So, they had to assemble the players and get all that going. I think they had a practice this week, and and I think they have their game next week. So, I mean, for me, I hope it goes according to plan, and they get all the guys back. And it would be nice to see all the Brampton guys that basically it's a couple of Minto Cup challenging teams that. Players from those guys that can hopefully fill the roster. So, yeah, I mean, again, I'm not too familiar with all the ins and outs that's going on there, but I mean, it's exciting for Brampton. I know there's a lot of chatter here about them coming back, and we're hopefully it'll go well.
Well, Pat, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and taking the whole hour with us. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck in Junior A this year, and I wish you the best of luck with the Knighthawks. Upcoming.
Thank you very much.
For Pat O'Toole, I'm Gary Groob. This has been NLL Lacrosse Talk on Spanglish Sports World and Zingo TV. Tune us in every Thursday at 4 p.m. and we'll be here every single week with a different guest. For Pat O'Toole, I'm Gary Groob. Have yourself a great week. Until next week.